Zimbabwe has been in the spotlight since the military seized control last week, placing former President Robert Mugabe under house arrest. This was triggered primarily by Mugabe's decision to remove his Vice President Emmerson Mnagagwa from the office. This resulted in mass protests calling for Mugabe's resignation, and finally, after much speculation, he tendered his resignation yesterday. Sibanengi Dube is the spokesperson for the Zimbabwe Exile Forum. He's here with us in studio. Good to have you. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks very much for having me.
Zimbabwe Exile Forum, just tell us what it is, the organization.
No, this is an organization that represents foreigners in Zimbabwe, Zimbabweans who are actually staying in foreign countries.
Okay.
So the organization came into life after we realized that the majority of adult Zimbabweans are actually staying out of Zimbabwe. Yeah. And in South Africa, it is estimated that more than 2 million Zimbabweans are here.
If you have to look at the world, I mean, it's quite interesting. So you say 2 million in South Africa, but when you say most adult Zimbabweans are living outside of the country, what would you estimate the amount of Zimbabweans living in exile?
No, most of the economically active Zimbabweans are actually out of Zimbabwe. There's no need to be in Zimbabwe.
Is there a number? Is there a number you can give me?
We're looking at around plus or minus 3 million people
3 million
are actually
people
out of Zimbabwe.
Yeah, which is a huge concern. And as you say, these are the financially active people that could be contributing to the country. Do you think that this announcement is going to trigger change? Do you think a lot of these people living in exile would want to go back to the country now?
Yeah, I would actually take an optimistic route. This recent development would obviously trigger change. It's an opportunity for Zimbabweans to start again. It's an opportunity for Zimbabweans to embrace each other across political divides and say, look, we have an opportunity to start again, and let's embrace each other and inclusively work together, a roadmap, a solution. And we just hope that the ZANU-PF, which is the ruling party, which has got the mandate and legally, which is constitutionally mandated to actually run the country, would actually involve other political players in the rebuilding of Zimbabwe. This is not a ZANU-PF moment, as we are actually made to believe. This is a moment for Zimbabweans to embrace each other and to work together and actually to make Zimbabwe shine again.
Yeah, which is a very important milestone in the country's history, because it's been very, very tough for Zimbabweans for these last years. Try and paint a picture for us. I mean, in terms of some of the struggles that Zimbabweans have been going through, which has led to so many being in exile, what has it been like?
No, Robert Mugabe ran a well-oiled regime that was actually bent on actually perpetuating dictatorship. Shrinking of the human rights, the actually deteriorating of the observation of the law, and also the economic mismanagement of the country and the political intolerance. It was actually a very painful period under Mugabe for the past 37 years. Yeah. And Mugabe actually became a dictator simply because people did not realize the kind of fiber that he was made of, because Mugabe actually came into life as a brand, more probably under different conditions of liberation struggle and so forth. And people actually looked at him as a saint. And under that cover, he actually came out to be one of the worst dictators this world have ever actually witnessed.
Yeah. What do you think was the turning point for him? Because, I mean, when he did come in, he did incredible things for Zimbabwe. You know, when you look at what he did for education, when he built universities, you know, he really sort of tried to make a difference, and he was seen as the liberator, that man that brought about the freedom. And yet, there was a big turning point and things went horribly wrong. Where do you think that happened?
No, the issue is Mugabe's really character was actually camouflaged by what you've just mentioned, by the liberation struggles, by the liberation credentials, and his eloquence. And you would actually agree with me that during the time when Mugabe was actually celebrated around the 1980s, that was the period he was actually butchering the bellies in Matabeleland. And that was the time when he was actually knighted by the Queen of England. So it was during that period that people could not actually pick who the really Mugabe is. Yeah. And in the process, people, when things started being said about Mugabe, some of us would actually think more probably this cannot be true. And a lot of things that were happening were actually happening undercover. And people dismissed it. And around the 1980s, that's when actually Mugabe actually started showing his character, when he actually started facing civil unrest and the protests, and come the no-vote campaign of the constitutional change, come MDC into life. And then the really devil came out, blaring, shooting with all his 6 cylinders. And he was not complex about it by then. We had a president who would appear on television and actually boast about being violent. So this is the kind of a person who has been actually presiding over the affairs of Zimbabwe. And this explains why we saw people celebrating left, right, and center against all political divides. And even the very ZANU-PF people were actually the loudest in terms of celebration. Yeah. So you would actually understand the kind of dictators who have been made to put up with for 37 years.
Just finally, as we wrap this up, do you still believe in ZANU-PF? I mean, the people that were shouting for him to go have been the people that have been supporting him through all of these years. And we talk 37 years, and he has been doing what he's been doing under the very careful eye of those people of the ZANU-PF that have been supporting him. Do you think ZANU-PF can continue to govern Zimbabwe, but to move it in the right direction under Mnagagwa?
No, these people in ZANU-PF who were actually shouting him to go away were actually being taken. He actually was holding them hostage. So it's not like they actually loved him or they liked him. They had no option. And also under Mnagagwa, look, this time is a period of hope, and Mnagagwa has no option except to do the right thing. Yeah. If he deviates and decides to actually march by the Mugabe lane, the people of Zimbabwe would actually remove him in as much as they did to Mugabe. They have learned a lesson not to trust or not to trust anybody. We are going back to rebuild Zimbabwe on the basis of mistrust.
Yeah. Do you really believe that the people of Zimbabwe removed President Mugabe, or was it the military?
No, look, it was quite clear that the military simply withdrew their security of the dictator and gave the people the leeway to actually remove Mugabe. That kind of march, no any sane man would actually remain in State House after actually seeing those multitudes of people marching against him. And a day ago, people were actually playing drums just 2 centimeters away from Mugabe's blue roof, and that actually scared him. Yeah. And this impeachment, it was not ZANU-PF for the military alone. It was actually a combination of all stakeholders in Zimbabwe, including the citizens of Zimbabwe.
We leave it there for this morning. Sibanengi Dube is the spokesperson for the Zimbabwe Exile Forum. Thank you for talking to us.
Thanks very much.
We'll see you after this break. Stay tuned.